I can't wait to continue our conversation with Erica Schroeder.
Yeah. No, the first part was amazing. I mean, no pressure, but I think the second part could even be better.
Let's one-up ourselves, to use a perfect pro term.
Absolutely. Eric and I get to talk a lot anyway.
Yeah.
And I actually have more conversations with each of you, I think, than you guys have with each other. So for me, it's fun to watch you guys interact.
Yeah, and then I get to learn more. Our initials are the same, and so that we have that bond to begin with.
It's true. Yes. We have a lot of the OCD qualities together, too.
That's true. That is true. Well, great.
I won't deny that. I won't deny that at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like the laid-back guy that, balances you out. Yeah. Or maybe I'm just irresponsible. It's one of the two.
Hey, I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Well, that's why we're friends.
That's right.
See, it all works out.
It's all about balance. Well, yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to hearing more stories and, about Erica's journey through this crazy creative world. Yeah, some great stuff.
All right, Erica, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Welcome to the Heart of the Cards, a conversation about creativity, inspiration, and dealing with what we're dealt.
So, popular music. What were you listening to as a kid? Just a short little. I'm just curious.
Sure.
Of what were you? Because we listen to stuff that we can usually sing along to. That's kind of the habit that we get into, especially as singers. But I'm just curious because it seems like, wow, this whole pop music thing was this sort of new thing to me. Were you listening to that stuff as a younger person?
Absolutely. And I was singing it when I was younger, and then when I started with Muriel, I stopped belting pops as much, and I started only belting like musical theater, if that makes any sense. But
yeah,
I think you'll enjoy this answer. Gloria Estefan was my favorite. She was everything to me. And then it was, and before that and during that time, it was also, of course, Whitney Houston. Mm-hmm. But as I got into high school, I had a whole nother group of female singers that meant something to me. And like the Indigo Girls is my favorite band forever and always. Like
great songs and great harmonies too. Just great harmony stuff.
Yes, the harmony is what I was always drawn to. Dan, you have Peter Gabriel. Who's your favorite? Is it Frampton? Am I making that up?
Well, Peter is my favorite person that plays music. But I really don't have that one influence. I have artists that I've been influenced by, but it's anything from the Beatles to Springsteen to Elvis to Cat Stevens. It's all over the place.
I love Cat Stevens. He was all over my family, by the way. Like, he was the only artist that my entire family listened to. Like, that's what we would put on in the car.
Yeah, as a songwriter and vocally, like that's kind of, I can definitely get into that space. But I also listen to a lot of oldies stuff. I mean, the Everly Brothers, early Bee Gees, things, and the harmony structure stuff. But that's why I asked you that question, because it seemed like you also made this shift into a genre that encompassed all of the things that these other artists that you were listening to had. I mean,
That's
Gloria
so true.
Estefan is a great vocalist, but she's also an incredible. Just her movement on stage, her performance style, is something that I think I could definitely see you being drawn to.
Yeah, it's so funny that you put that all together so well, because I'm like, yeah, I guess it felt like so foreign to me, but yet at the same time.
Right.
It was like going back to 7th or 8th grade when Whitney was my person, when Gloria was my person. Gloria sang much lower than Whitney.
Yes.
Whitney had those notes that I was like, I'm gonna get those notes. You know what I mean? Like, I will get there.
Well, you also picked you picked good singers to like. You didn't pick there are definitely some singer-songwriters that I like, some male singer-songwriters who sing 2 or 3 notes that I'm like, this is an amazing song. The lyrics are great. The vocals are not great, but great. But you picked some tough ones to emulate and to like.
So there was like the musical theater influence singers for me that were happening at the same time. And for me, that was Shirley Jones.
Oh, yeah.
She did the score. She was Julie
also
Jordan
in the Music Man.
Yes. I mean, her voice to me, and I've got to go back and listen to her now, because for about 4 years, she is what I listen to. I listen to the song If I Loved You every day. Every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, to emulate her control and her ease and her glissando. I think they're called glissandos. So she would go from one note to the next, whether it was going up or down, right? And she could seamlessly connect them with this beautiful vibrato. And I was like, I want to sing like that. And Barbara Cook was another one. I mean, Barbara Cook, oh my goodness, her singing in Candide, incredible. So I emulated Shirley Jones and Barbara Cook as a soprano, along with all the other influences that my music teacher, that my voice teacher Muriel was giving me. So, but those women highly influenced my ingenue voice. And for those of you listeners who don't know what an ingenue is, it's the romantic female lead. It's the person whose love story the story is about. The hero, I guess, the right. Loving hero, right?
Yes.
And I played a lot of ingenues, but I don't know if I should transition. I'm thinking about something else right now, which is, the fact that we all can do many different things. And sometimes we'll get pegged as one thing when we're like, no, I am also these other things.
Yeah. When you get recognized as being competent at something, it makes it easier for the people casting you to just think in terms of what they know you can do well.
They can get lazy, let's be honest.
Well, that's true too. That's true too.
They put you in a box and they want to stick you in that box and keep you there. So I confused the hell out of people because I would come in and sing a soprano song, like an ingenue song, but I made it funny.
Mm-hmm.
I
you
broke
are funny.
all the rules.
You are funny.
Oh, thank you, Eric.
You are.
That means so much to me.
Well, you know that I love any of the comedic stuff that we've done together, working together in the voiceover world. But I said this to you recently. I would love to see you do more.
That's when we were all together in Long Beach.
Yeah, see some more of your actual your improv comedies. I just think you're funny. But yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I mean, I remember working on Yu-Gi-Oh together and discovering so many funny moments together, and also a lot of the influences that you would bring up. I always knew them. We were totally in sync. You would mention a name and I'd be like, "Yep, I know what you're talking about," because we were both influenced by ya-cha-cha, the ya-cha-cha people.
Yeah. Well, you got to go back to the original stuff. It's funny. It's like I was just speaking to a musician friend of ours, John Siegler, and I had given him some direction in using a musical reference instead of telling him what notes to play. I just gave him an example of a song. I said, like the bass part from this song. And he was like, got it. And he did it exactly like I was talking about. He said, that was very helpful. I knew when you said that, that's what you meant. And I said, yeah, I don't like to tell people, I don't want to give them a line reading. I don't want to give them the notes to play. But if they speak my language, if I can give them an example of this is kind of like a Mel Brooks moment, or this is we're using a musical reference of it's like Zeppelin here. And they get it. It's very easy to steer someone that way and also let them come up with their own interpretation of what that means rather than dictating exactly what I want. So that's the dynamic between actor and director that's when it's magic.
Yeah, it always felt magical. And I remember you saying Mae West. I remember, was it Eartha Kitt? I don't know. You would throw names at me, and I'd be like, oh, I know what that is. I gotcha. You directed me, and I sang a cute song in the, I'm blanking on the name of it, Viva Piñata.
Yes. Great show.
And it was these are two totally different references, honestly, but it was either Eartha Kitt or Edith Piaf. I cannot remember which one.
Very different.
They're so different.
The first letter of their names is the only similarity.
Only similarity. But I just remember, you saying it's like this, and me being like, I gotcha. I know what that is. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. And having a common language with a person that you work with, a teacher, a mentor, a director, is just it's so refreshing. Sometimes we have, I don't want to get negative on here, but I will for a minute. We have.
Hey, I started the whole podcast with a rant. You're allowed.
We have some engineers that become directors, and some of them do their homework and they learn the language of the actor, and some of them don't. And it's tragic when you're working with the ones that never developed the actor-director vocabulary, because you feel for them. Like they're so limited, and then also you're like, you feel like you're not being given the full, they're not dealing with the full deck of cards of that, each one has a different adjective. Each one has a different emotional depth, and they don't have the words to give us,
It's as if directing is a skill and an art form itself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it almost seems like they've got a Post-it filled with bullet points of the phrases to say for direction.
Yeah.
No, I mean I've spoken about this in terms
of some of them are amazing.
Being a director and understanding that it's who you're speaking to as an actor. You could be trying to get the same performance out, the same character out of different people, but you have to know how to speak to that specific actor, and not going down a list of, oh yeah, I ask for more energy. Oh, this needs to be more, subtle.
Fill in blank.
No, fill in. Yeah, exactly.
And also a distinction
so
I think that's important for any audience member out there who not only will receive this as actors, but people who may want to direct. It's more than knowing what you want. It's knowing how to get it with the people you're working with.
100%. You say the same words to 3 different people, they're going to do 3 different things.
Well, my example is I tell this story. So imagine being at a dinner party with about 10 people that you don't know, and you tell kind of a semi-dirty joke. You can tell immediately who you could tell another joke to based on their body language or who laughed, or you can tell who's completely offended, or you can tell who's like, yeah, it's kind of funny, but I don't know if I need to hear more right now. And if you're a good director, you're taking notes and paying attention to how each person responded, so you know how to follow up with each one.
Yes.
Notes also means intuitively responding for our listeners. It's not necessarily a study. It's you get it.
And
Dan and Erica, could I take a slight shift? Because I want to ask a question to Erica that we've touched upon a lot of these inspiring, positive experiences and the motivation to do what you do. What I think our listeners also benefit from is, can you tell us, and I've asked this question to some of our other guests that we brought on, so how do you deal with the struggle side, the challenges, the whether it's stage fright or getting lost in where you are in the scene, or what is your trick to get your stuff together, or can you give us an example of how you have had some of those pitfalls to then respond to them?
Well, there's so many different pitfalls to have, aren't there?
Yeah.
There's like the specific ones where you say the wrong thing on stage.
Yes.
Which has happened several times, and I have some amazing stories as to what happened after that. And then there's the fear of. So I'll kind of answer this in 2 different ways. Then there's the fear of, some people have a fear of failure. Some people have a fear of success. Okay? And they're different. The people who have a fear of success never fully go all in with what they're trying to do.
True.
So if I start feeling a fear of success, or a fear of not measuring up or anything like that, any type of fear, I tend to run toward it.
Good.
It doesn't always feel great. It's always like, you know what I mean? Like inside, I'm like, I'm a mess. I am falling apart. But outwardly, I am showing a completely different story. And it's, for me, I'm not saying like lie to the people you're in the room with, but you have to inspire a certain amount of confidence with people in order for them to believe in you, and then that feeds into the positive energy that happens, and then beautiful things start to happen. If you acknowledge your fear too much, you could downward spiral. I
well,
mean,
sure,
that's
the never let them see you sweat. I mean, the minute you start to show that on stage or in life, it's like it even makes people uncomfortable to watch that happening on stage.
Yeah, and I mean, it's different for everyone. Like, some people just want to tell everybody how they feel, what their limitations are, and that is valid too, and that's a different method. I will say, in musical theater, you are never, ever, ever, ever supposed to give any excuses before you perform. If
Right.
you are dying and you are like, have bronchitis, you do not tell them. It is like a rule. Like, don't ever make excuses. Give the best that you have. They will see what they see. And that is something that I have always tried to do, you know. But there is, with voiceover, you might need to cancel. Like, that's a totally different story. You have to let people know. But I don't want to get off track from this amazing question. So, yeah, I tend to run toward the fear. It's not always a comfortable place to be. So, I'm uncomfortable at least once a week. I'm really uncomfortable inside of myself. But that's
even
to
as a
me,
skilled, talented, seasoned professional, these things happen.
I remember when I brought you in for something and you had not auditioned for it. I brought you in for an accent or a dialect, and you walked into the studio and said to me, I don't know if I can do this. Like,
oh no, did I?
yeah, and I was like, I know you can do this.
Aw, you're so
and you were
sweet.
like, really? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I've heard the things that you are doing on other shows and stuff you've done for me, and I think this is in your wheelhouse. And you nailed it. I can't tell you which one of the many things you've done for me on the shows it was, but that wasn't
Maybe
to me.
because I hadn't tested the waters yet. I was
Yes.
like, "Ooh," right?
Yeah, and it wasn't self-doubt. It wasn't like you were like, no, this is beyond my capabilities. It was more like, oh, this is an interesting approach and interesting character. I've never done this before. I don't know if I can. And it was like, yeah, but there's also that difference between confidence and ego. I think you are confident in what you do. You know your skills, and you don't come across as someone that has a big ego, but as someone that has had the benefit of watching you perform and experiencing that. You potentially could if you wanted to. I mean, what you have done with your career, what your skills are. You're a fantastic singer. You're a great voice actor, and all of those things, and easy to work with. So it's just an interesting. To me, it's you walk that line. I think you have definitely put on that show that you need to do on the outside to someone that knows you both professionally and personally as a friend. You convey that confidence without letting us in too much on the parts that the self-doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it's always there. I mean, not always there, but like it can creep in, and you just have to face it and just be like, shut up, like stop that, and because it's the only way to get through and the only way to succeed is to push through that discomfort. Now, Dan will attest to this. I don't like to drive. That's the one area where I hate driving. Like, I really don't like it. I won't do it unless I'm forced to. And it does, hold me back sometimes. But it also saves me a lot of money.
Well,
I'm like, I don't really need milk.
I can order it. So this gets into another part of these trials that we face. Now, Eric framed this question in terms of the creative path and the work that we do, the work specifically that you do. But what other trials do you think are perhaps beneficial for the audience to hear about that pertain to not directly the work that you do, but other elements of your life that are part of this journey that we all go through?
I think one of the struggles that I had, this will be interesting. I've never talked about this. When I became a mother, I was like, maybe I don't need to act anymore. Maybe I don't need to sing anymore. Maybe I don't need to dance anymore. Maybe I just want to be there every second and be, a full-time mom.
This also might relate to this idea of the temptress, which is like a reasonable voice in your head that can lead you off the path. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so what happened was, first of all, like we had a logistical thing, my husband and I. He had to live in the city during the week, and I was living, in Pennsylvania with the kids. I had a infant and a toddler. It was very challenging, as you know, feeling like a single parent or being a single parent. It's so challenging. But also I was like, I just wanted to be that mom that was just always there, and I feel like I achieved that, but also I think a part of me was just like, maybe after I have these children, like, I won't need these other things. Like, maybe they'll fulfill every desire inside of me, which is an idiotic. Looking back on it, it's like, wow, how naive was I? Like, did they fulfill so much? Like, oh my God, they opened my heart in ways that I never knew were possible.
There's
and
that.
Like, definitely the most important thing in my life. But, we all three of us have kids. Like, it doesn't suddenly mean that you're not an artist anymore.
Right.
I don't know what
it's not the same thing. And
I was like on crack, Yeah.
Well, but also cautionary is if you, whether it's having children or not, if you try to displace this creative desire and shuffle that meaning, that fulfillment onto something else, you might be placing a really unhealthy burden on that other thing. And if it's your children, that could really screw things up. Or your spouse, or who you're dating, or your new work environment, they're never gonna fill that part of you that wants the other thing.
You are so right, and
you don't want that resentment. And honestly, it's
Yeah.
I give everybody these words of advice. If you're going to be involved with a creative person, just have a lot of patience.
That's a really good sentence.
Yeah.
Right
Well, yeah,
there.
and also they're always having an affair with their creativity.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, and my husband and I are both in the arts. So we are both doing
And
that
Ken
at
is
the
a
same
fantastic
time.
composer.
Yeah, right. That's true.
He really is quite incredible. He doesn't love to have his his horn tooted, but he really is brilliant. He really is. He's I fell in love with him while we were singing a love duet that he wrote. Like, I fell in love with
Ken.
him.
Well played.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I'm like, he was like, here, sing this song I wrote. It's a love duet. I mean, literally, right, Eric?
It was based on how much you were flirting with him.
Yeah.
I know to keep my beautiful wife Lindsay around. I just got to keep writing songs about her.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful.
Well, I just think it's a romantic thing. I mean, anytime you're sharing, a creative art with someone like that, I mean, that's a very romantic way that you guys became an item. But yeah, so it adds another dimension to the household anyway. You've got two creative minds who, at least for me, creativity is not scheduled. I mean, here in Nashville, we try to make plans to songwrite, co-write with each other. Hey, we're going to get together at 9:30 and write a song together. That worked for me for a little bit, but then I'm like, I'm not feeling it at 9:30. Oh, when am I feeling it? At 1:30 a.m. That's when I'm feeling it. Who's around? Who wants to write with me now? Right? So I can only imagine the dynamic and scheduling of two creative people.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Running a household and be like, I'm feeling the inspiration to write this piano piece, and you're like, I need to sing this song or whatever. Yeah. The balance of that.
The balance, yeah, and then Madigan being in the mix, her being her creative self.
Your daughter, for our listeners, yes.
Yeah, and Schroeder, my son, yes, he's not Schroeder, so don't worry. That confuses a lot of people. But he's now, kind of dabbling in the creative stuff too. But yeah, we have to make time for each other, and we have to make time for each other's art, and that has always been something that we have done for each other really well. It's like a very successful part of our marriage is, you need time? Okay. Get in there, and I'll even like block the door, like with the kids try and come in, and like I'll be like, Dad's writing. You know, I actually say Daddy. I still say Daddy. Daddy's writing. You know, but he's okay with them interrupting. He's fine with it. He's so used to it, and I interrupt him all the time. But we try not to. You know what I mean? Like unless it's really a time thing.
And while those two creative polar elements might, create some friction sometimes, it's great that you can understand in each other the need for that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love that he writes. I love that he creates, and like when I get to hear the end result, like I feel like it's Christmas. You know, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. Like I would love to be more a part of his creative process, but I
was going to
understand.
ask you that. How much of the do you have a chance to at least do
zero.
Really?
Well,
yeah,
I can understand.
He does not share. Yeah,
I can understand the need for it to be his own domain.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But like every once in a while, I will get a glimpse of something before it's finished or in an almost final phase, and I consider that a gift, and then also the gift of like when it's finished. I just. And my daughter is also his biggest fan. It's the cutest thing. Like she asked him last week for a Dropbox of his musical theater songs. And she like will ask in the car, Dad, will you play something? Like, can we hear one of your songs? And he's not always comfortable with people listening when he's there, which is fine. He would rather leave the room or go somewhere else.
Yep.
But so it's going to be a fun process, allowing him, because he loves her so much and will just do anything for her, he's going to eventually start allowing his own music to be played in the car because she wants it. She's requested it, and she is unbelievably good at getting what she wants from us because she's not a brat. And she just asks in the most incredible way, like, and she'll even use psychology on us. Like, you should do this because this would be good for your own blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So she's incredible that way. So she will get in there, and then I have a feeling that his music will be, start to be played more often in the house and in the car.
I can totally relate to that. I could totally relate.
Can
to
you
that.
Really?
Well, like when I visit my parents, my mother asks Alexa to play the Eric Stewart band, and when I'm there, like there'll be a bunch of people there, and I'm like, can we not do this while I'm sitting? Now that's not to say that I don't listen to my stuff all the time, because that's actually how I practice. I listen to my music, and it's just so that it gets drilled into my head. I actually fall asleep to the music so that I can remember the lyrics. Yeah, I mean, my kids would ask to play my stuff when we would drive, and it's a different kind of audience. They're asking because they're proud of Dad. It's not like they're trying to say, I want to make Dad feel good. They're truly like, my dad plays music. That's cool. And actually, my oldest daughter, Amelia, she every once in a while she'll send me a little text or a quick little video of her, sitting in the car listening to Eric Stewart Band songs, like old school stuff that she grew up listening to. And that's kind of a sweet thing. That's kind of like,
that is cute.
It's not like, this ego stroke. It's more of just like, that's kind of cool that my kids like what their parents. So I get that. And yeah, I could also understand why Ken is like a little uncomfortable in the car. It's like, really? Because as a composer, someone as a songwriter, it's hard to say that the paint is dry, to use another metaphor going with music. But every time we listen to something we've done that's been recorded, we say, I should have made that a little louder. Or
the inner critic.
Yeah, you're constant. You can't just listen. You can't just enjoy.
Yeah.
You're analyzing it again.
You're always working on it.
That's what Madigan needs to say to Ken. Dad, the paint is dry.
Oh, that's
just
so
enjoy
good.
it.
It's dry enough for me.
This is so good that
anyway.
this is being recorded so I can reference back to this.
That's right.
Right. So we also recently discussed, just in the previous episode, this, I guess it was the episode before, this part of the hero's journey called apotheosis, which refers to when you feel like you're at your culmination point. All of your faculties, your capacities are at their greatest strength. It's another way of saying deification. And in this journey that we go through, even though we constantly find imperfections in what we've done or what we're trying to do, you both understand the reference to this experience of feeling fully capable, fully realized, fully engaged in what it is that you have aspired to become. Erica, tell us a little bit about any experiences of those in your life.
One experience just, popped into my mind right away as being a celebratory, stressful moment. You know how we talked about like discomfort and like pushing through it,
Yeah.
But I was actually extremely excited to when I auditioned for Jane Eyre, the musical on Broadway.
Right.
I was called in, very late in the process, meaning it had already been done out of town, 2 different places. A lot of cast members stayed with it.
Which is a common process for theater productions.
Yeah, like it was at La Jolla and it was, I think, somewhere in Kansas. I should know that, but I don't. And there was just a few cast members they were filling in at this point, and they wanted me to come in to be the swing. And
the swing, define that for the audience.
Oh, sure. So the swing is the person that sits backstage and can go on for anything in their contract that they're under contract for at any time. So
the understudy.
Yes, the understudy. Well, you know what? It's
for multiple roles, though.
A swing is different than an understudy, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so swing is.
It's so
impressive
that someone, can come in and be like, I can play all 5 of these characters.
Yeah.
And if all 5 of those actors don't show up, I can play all 5 of them at once.
Exactly. Okay, Eric, I have a story. You'd be surprised. But no, I have a story. But this particular age range was like 14, actually even younger, like 10 to 14 to like 65. So I was like, I think most actors or actresses might be like, but they don't know Erica Schroeder, who auditioned for Merry Wives of Windsor with Driving Miss Daisy monologue. I have always wanted to be an old woman my whole life. It's like I was a gypsy or an old woman every single Halloween. I was just, that's who I identified with and that's who I wanted to be. And so when I got this audition, I was like, not only was I excited, but also John Caird, the director, had asked for us to bring in monologues. Now, those of you listening might not understand this. As musical theater performers, the amount of times that we are actually asked to perform a monologue is 1 in 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
For musical theater. For plays, and then 90%, I should not be using percentages that I don't really understand. But a lot of musical theater
much more common for acting, less common for musical theater, right?
Correct, yeah. So a lot of them, but a lot of musical theater performers do not do straight plays. I was one of those people who did both,
Right.
So always interested in both and in fact, not wanting to be locked into just musicals, being upset at my agents sometimes saying, I want more plays. And they didn't make as much money, so they didn't want to send me out on much. I made much more money for them doing musical theater. So anyway, so John asked us to, everyone auditioning to bring in 1 contemporary monologue and 1 classical monologue. So I was so excited, because I was like, oh, I get to use my monologues. I brought in a sheet of paper with the first line of 6 sonnets and the first line of 6 Shakespeare monologues and the first line of 3 contemporary monologues. So what's the math there? 12, 15? Ooh, and I'm episode 15. That's weird. I brought in 15 monologues. Now, guys, in order to be prepared to do 15 different monologues at the same time, not at the same time. That would be insanity.
That would be quite impressive.
To be able to right? I have 15 voices. To be able to pull that, out of a hat essentially and be prepared to put yourself in that character at a moment's notice for 15 different things. I wasn't even thinking this is what I'll have to do as a swing. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking of, I don't want to choose. I have so many and I never get to use them and I'm excited. So I brought them in and they're like, so what is your monologue selection after I sang? So they called me back in, because they wanted to hear more. And I was like, well, you get to choose. And I gave them the sheet of paper, and the looks on their faces, because it was probably like 8 different people,
Mm-hmm.
they were shocked. They were like, what? All of these? And I was like, yeah, anyone. Like, just you choose. I was like very excited. And John Caird said, I have to remember exactly what he said, and the way he said it was, I feel like I'm in the Monologue candy store, something like that. It was more eloquent than that with his British accent. But so I was only supposed to do 1 or 2. I ended up doing like 3 or so because like I would finish one and one of the producers or directors would be like, well, I want to choose one. And they'd be like, okay. And they'd pass the sheet down. Like they were having fun. We were having so much fun. We were being playful, and I wasn't nervous at all because I was like, everyone's laughing. We're having fun. And it was just a moment of pure joy and confidence that I felt, the culmination of all the work that I had done as a performer. And it was the 6th Broadway callback for 6 different Broadway shows that I made it down to the wire for. And I was like, with the same casting director. And I was like, if this isn't the one, I don't know what is. Like, you know what I mean? I'm thinking, this isn't the one, you know what I'm saying? So so I booked it, and it was just such a beautiful audition memory. I had the best time, and the show was incredible, and I got to go on for every single role that I understudied. And Eric, to get back to your thing, your joke, right?
Right.
So I understudied 4 tracks, 8 characters. So sometimes 2 people of the same age would be out at the same time.
Oh, boy.
I'm like, how is this going to work? Like people don't understand.
So long as they don't have any
swings-
scenes together, you can do it.
Exactly, right? So what ended up happening was they told me, like, you have to say everyone's lines, right? Because they're chorus lines, and some of the scenes, it didn't matter who said them. It's just the information was important. You have to say both of their lines. So I was like, okay, line number 3, 18, 7, and, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And you can stand anywhere you want, but you have to stand in one of their places, right?
Right.
And
right.
you have to change. You're going to wear this person's costume, so you have to know exactly where to exit and enter the stage to get your quick change in the correct place.
Wow. Right.
And you can sing any harmony you want. As long
Oh, thank you. That's nice of them to do that part for you.
Yeah.
So
as
wait,
long as it's one of the two that you
just
rehearsed.
go back a second. How much lead time do you get that night to know that you're going on for all of those people?
Sometimes it's instantaneous.
Okay, can I tell you this, Eric? One time I got thrown on at the beginning of Act 2. So one of the actresses was I'm not going to say who it was. I love her so much. She was sick. She was vomiting backstage, and I was like, I heard it over the monitor, so I was like, turn off her mic. I was like, her mic is still on. You know what I mean? Like, she's off the stage. Like, nobody, I don't know. But anyway, I got thrown on not for her. Like, the other older understudy got thrown on for her, and I got thrown on for the other person. So
right in the middle of the performance, you get the, okay, you're going on, which means not only...
Go to hair and makeup, yeah.
I mean, I understand the concept of being that one, that, you know, an understudy for one specific role, and that you're standing on, on the side of the stage waiting, and it could be, we're going on, we're not going on, but to be a swing like you were explaining, and the pressure, the energy, to be able to handle that as a performer, that live pressure like that is so impressive. As someone who is a little OCD when it comes to the structure of my musical performances and organizing the band and how the arrangements are, and that we're not a jam band, and it's the structure of the song, and where cues are for different parts of the other musicians to play and not play. That spontaneous moment of, and I'm on, And I'm doing these things that are not necessarily what I thought I was going to be doing while I was having breakfast this morning. Is really quite impressive. I am blown away by that. I think
it's also part of the excitement and the thrill of live performance. I was swing for an off-Broadway production called as Bees and Honey Drown, and I covered all the male roles, including the lead male role. And there was a night where you're supposed to show up at the theater, and then they say, nope, you can go home. I was on a subway back to Brooklyn, and then this is back when they were pagers, and they're like, wait, we need you.
Oh my God.
And at the time, it was a hot property, and so like there were celebrities in the audience, and but that's part of also to our followers why you do your work, because when you hit that stage, you can't be self-conscious. You have to be in the moment, and there's a lot of trust you got to throw into that. Anyway.
But to prep multiple roles,
prepared
for it's
one of the male roles I was covering was a role that consisted of 4 roles.
Yeah, the concept of preparing for multiple roles and not knowing that, okay, this is what I'm doing.
But it makes a certain sense, though. I mean, I understand why it's like, whoa, but I think you would, if you really saw the mechanics of it, you would get it. Pardon me, yes, you would be good at it. And
I appreciate the compliment.
A moment is a moment. If you can understand it as an actor, you can be many characters.
And that's the other reason why I also enjoy live theater is because, and I'm not a big fan of recording every performance, is because the things that happen also can disappear into the ether at the end of the night. So it's kind of like I don't need to revisit that moment, but that moment was pretty cool. But it's also that's what makes live theater, music, everything entertaining to me is that it's different every night, even if you're doing the same show, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I just want to tell you my most fearful moment on stage.
Please, I want to hear this.
Production. So I was understudying Elizabeth DeGrazia, who is this amazing opera singer, and I was playing the coloratura role. And I think it's one of the main reasons why I got cast is because not a lot of people can move, have that range first, and then not a lot of people have that mobility up in the top of the range. But so she was out, and her main understudy was also out. So I think it was my birthday. But I'm pretty sure it was my birthday. It was my first time going on for her, and we have these hoop skirts, you guys. I mean, you cannot see your feet. All right, at all. And there was a spotlight, and it was a solo, and it was like towards the top of Act 2, and I had a parasol over a shoulder. I was supposed to be the ultimately most graceful, beautiful, perfect person, right? Like, she's like supposed to like just be the most graceful. She's not a nice person, but she represents grace and beauty, and there were 2 turntables, okay? You know how, like Les Mis has the turntables? Jane Eyre had these 2 turntables, and they were going in opposite directions to bring on the set pieces. And one of them was like a topiary. There was 2 topiaries coming at me from opposite directions. I don't know that I'd ever...
Topiaries are sculpted bushes.
Yes.
She got caught between 2 ferns is what happened.
Hey, now...
Okay, that was amazing. But I was just so nervous because their turntables are going. I've got the 2 topiaries. I have to step onto one, step onto the other one, then step off of it and get through it. I had to do it twice because I was at the back of the stage. So I had to go once on, once off, walk, 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 once on, once off, walk forward. And I was being followed by a spotlight on my face while singing, avoiding the topiaries. And I was like, how the hell does she do this? How does she do this? I was like, I don't know. And I think we'd rehearsed it once, and I was like, I'm going to break my knee. I'm going to fall on my face in front of everyone. I won't be able to sing because I will be on my face on the floor. And I'll be, the turntables will be scraping me. You know what I mean? They'll have to come and scoop me up and drag me off the stage. That's my vision. God.
And I think since then, that's now become an Olympic event, or it's on American Ninja. I'm not sure.
So what happened?
It comes after curling.
Did you make it? Did you get through it?
I did it all without a hitch. It just and I remember my heart was like, boom, 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 boom. I mean, I was literally like, just let me get through this 10 seconds, and then I'll be fine.
Right. And of course, if you had pulled like a Jerry Lewis or a Chevy Chase falling down the stairs like Gerald Ford moment, I know that you would probably seize the moment and make it hilarious and memorable. You would probably own it. You would be like, I meant to do that, right?
Sometime when you have me on part, 73, episode 73, I'll come back and tell my stories the stories of messing up on stage and recovering.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I look forward to hearing that. And also, Erica, as I think you can attest, the audience is on your side. They want it to work for you. So if you screw up and you do your best to cover for it, they're gonna go with it, right? They're not gonna throw, the tomatoes. And
tomatoes.
Yeah, they get
true.
that. They're in it with you, which is part of the beauty of live performance. So.
Yeah.
Most of the times that I messed up on stage, the issue is that my other cast members, whatever I did, made them laugh so hard they couldn't continue with what they were doing.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like
you have to be able
snowball
to.
effect.
You have to be able to cover that moment. I mean, I played a show.
Yeah.
I played a show once where a light in the back of the venue caught on fire and filled the venue with smoke.
What?
And everyone was a little uncomfortable because they thought it was a fire. And I was like, no, just calm down. We paid extra for pyrotechnics. It's part of the show. And everyone laughed. And then we continue to play. Like you have to, know. Yes.
That's
well,
incredible.
Erica, thank you so much for spending time with us today and participating with this conversation.
Thank you. I love you guys. You know that. I'm such a sentimental sap. With each year, it's just the love grows. I love my Yu-Gi-Oh family. I love my 4 kids family. I really do. And
Me too.
It was a beautiful time in my life, and I feel so lucky, and I'm filled with so much gratitude that you guys were there with me and that we had that time together.
We had that time together. We have the relationships that endure beyond that. And I'm also, I think, speaking for all of us, we are so humbled and flattered to have fans that cared about it.
Oh, my word, right?
And thank you for taking the time today to share some of your stories and experiences. I really think that our listeners will benefit from that. And just also, they learned a lot more about you and your abilities and your challenges. And this just makes us just more human, and that maybe it will inspire someone to follow in your footsteps as well. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I love you.
We love you back. And we'll bring this to a close for now. And Eric, thanks as always, for being a wonderful co-host. And
thank you. To you as well, Dan.
My pleasure, as always. And thanks to all of you listeners and followers out there. I know you're hitting those like buttons fervently and ferociously to help spread the love. And we look forward to the next time where we can share a conversation about creativity, inspiration, and dealing with what you're dealt.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of the Cards with Dan Green and Eric Stuart. We hope this conversation in some way spoke to you. Whatever your journey, we look forward to crossing paths again in the next episode. This is Veronica Taylor, and on behalf of Andromeda Productions, we wish you well.
Andromeda, always a sound choice.